A famous Iron Man scene broke the oldest superhero rule in the book, but Daredevil, Born Again proves that it was the right decision. The ongoing series is the MCU's official continuation of the original Netflix Daredevil show, following Matt Murdock once again as he fights the criminals of New York. His biggest consistent opposition since the first season has undoubtedly been Wilson Fisk, the feared crime lord known as Kingpin. The villain returns in Daredevil, Born Again, but in a very different position this time. In Season 1 of Daredevil, Matt helped take down Kingpin's crime empire. He's in prison in Season 2 but manages to escape in Season 3, much to Matt's chagrin. The two despise each other, with Kingpin holding a grudge over Matt taking down his empire, while Matt believes that Kingpin is part of the reason why crime is allowed to run rampant in the city. This all comes to a head in Born Again as Kingpin manages to become the mayor of New York City, winning on an anti-vigilante platform that directly affects Daredevil's reputation. Kingpin is at war with masked vigilantes in Daredevil, Born Again. Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock and Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk sitting and talking in a diner in Daredevil Born Again, 2025. Kingpin's main argument during his campaign was that professional laws and services have taken a backseat because of the rise in vigilantism. With people turning to masked heroes for help instead of the law, recruitment numbers for groups like the police and military have dropped. Kingpin runs on the platform that he can restore order to the city by cracking down on masked vigilantes, which is, of course, largely a cover so that he can control the likes of Daredevil from interfering with his affairs. Of course, Kingpin's anti-vigilante platform wouldn't have actually won without some substance behind it. People may have turned to superheroes in the past, but there's been a growing fear and distrust in these heroes considering the potential destruction and consequences they leave in their wake. This sentiment in Daredevil, Born Again is consistent with the underlying MCU narrative that's presented itself ever since Captain America, Civil War with the Sokovia Accords, and Kingpin was smart to take advantage of it at a time when Daredevil has disappeared from the public eye. Daredevil, Born Again repeats Kingpin's schemes in the original Daredevil show. Interestingly enough, while Fisk's mayoral position in Daredevil, Born Again is very much new, his approach to undermining New York's vigilantes has remained relatively consistent when compared to the original Netflix Daredevil show in which Charlie Cox's Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin had their first conflicts. This doesn't bode well for Daredevil or many of New York's other costumed heroes, as Kingpin was able to make Daredevil a suspicious figure to the city more than once in the original series run prior to him even seeming to consider running for the mayoral position that he now holds. Fisk routinely used the mystery around Daredevil's real identity to try and discredit the hero's efforts and portray himself as a mistreated underdog to the general public. This fell through at the end of Daredevil Season 3, but notably not because of the general public specifically, and more because of Ray Nadim's dying confession about all the wrongdoing he'd been a part of for Kingpin, and because the villain himself agreed to go to jail in exchange for Daredevil leaving his wife Vanessa free from incarceration. With Bullseye spending much of Daredevil Season 3 masquerading as the man without fear and being responsible for several high-profile killings, and the Punisher similarly leaving a trail of devastation in his wake, it is easy to see how Kingpin's anti-vigilante approach as mayor is set up throughout the original Daredevil Netflix show. Interestingly, this looks set to once again bring the matter of secret identities back into the spotlight, adding new context to much of the MCU, including one of its oldest secret identity reveals. Daredevil, Born Again proves Iron Man was right to reveal his identity. Tony Stark famously revealed his identity to the public at the end of Iron Man, which was a move that's consistently debated even almost 2 decades later. While it made for an interesting dynamic considering that Tony was already a public figure, it breaks one of the oldest superhero rules about keeping your identity a secret. However, Daredevil, Born Again may have just proven that it was actually necessary. The unknown creates suspicion and suspicion breeds contempt, so a vigilante protecting their real identity may not be the safest option after all. Having their identity out in the open tells people that the hero has nothing to hide, and it's easier to hold them accountable that way if something really does go awry. The fact that Kingpin is able to create a whole campaign off of getting rid of masked vigilantes is one thing, but the fact that he manages to win is very telling of where the public stands. Although heroes need to protect their identities, Daredevil, Born Again proves that Iron Man was right and public transparency may have to come first.